this quick video, I'm going to show you how to deal with Cabot Financial Debt Collectors. You've probably received a letter from Cabot Financial or even had them knocking at your door. When our debt collectors chasing me back in 2010, it caused me a lot of stress and anxiety. But since then, I've worked in the credit card industry for over 10 years, and I'm happy to say I've been able to use my insider knowledge to help thousands of people out of debt. So today I'd like to share that knowledge by answering 5 frequently asked questions, such as how to reduce your repayment amount, how to stop Cabot Financial from contacting you, what happens if you ignore them, and what they're not allowed to do when they're collecting your debt. At the end of this video, I have a bonus tip on how to write off some of your debt, so stick around to the end. Okay, so question number 1. Are Cabot Financial legitimate? Well, if you've received a letter in the post, this is probably your first question. If you don't recognize the company name, it might be that they've purchased your debt or that they're a debt collector collecting on behalf of another company. I can confirm that Cabot Financial is a UK registered company, and whilst there are a bunch of scams out there when it comes to debt collectors, I'm afraid that this is unlikely to be a scam. However, you should never pay unless you are certain that the debt is yours. You're well within your rights to ask Cabot Financial to provide proof that the debt is yours. I have a free letter template on my website, which I'll link to in the description below. Okay, question number 2. What happens if you ignore Cabot Financial? Well, if you ignore debt collectors, your problem could escalate and become very serious. Cabot Financial do have the right to take court action against you. If you were to ignore court letters, you could end up with a county court judgment or a CCJ, which could have a major impact on your credit score and your chances of borrowing money in the future. If you do get a CCJ and you still don't pay, this could ultimately result in bailiffs coming to your home to take your valuable items or even your car. So please don't ignore them, and we'll get to what you should do later in this video. Question number 3, what are Cabot Financial not allowed to do? Well, despite being legally appointed to collect your debt or outright owning your debt, there's several things that Cabot Financial cannot do when it comes to collecting debts. Knowing that Cabot Financial must uphold standards set out by the regulatory guidelines will make you feel a lot more comfortable and confident when dealing with them. So here's the things they're legally not allowed to do. They're not allowed to visit your place of work unless you give them specific permission to do so. Before this rule was put in place, debt collectors used to come to the place that you're working and make things awkward for you and put as a way of sort of putting pressure on to make you pay. And on a similar note, they're not allowed to speak to neighbours, friends or family about your debt. Again, this is to stop them from embarrassing you or shaming you into paying your debt. Cabot Financial cannot contact or visit your home at unreasonable times of the day. For phone calls, most people would agree that calls before 8 a.m. are too early and calls after 9 p.m. are too late. But your circumstances might be different, for example, if you work night shifts. If you can't take calls during certain times, then tell them. They should be able to keep a record of this and avoid calling you at these times. You can make a complaint if they've called you at the times that you've told them to avoid. They're not allowed to act in a threatening or intimidating way. Also, they should never pressurize you into paying larger installments than you can afford or hitting deadlines that are impossible. The regulations also say that they're not allowed to pressure you into selling your home or to take out more credit to pay your existing debts. Debt collectors can't pretend to be bailiffs or enforcement agents. Unlike bailiffs, debt collectors cannot force their way into your home, and they can't refuse to leave if you ask them to. And they're certainly not allowed to take your possessions or clamp your car. So question number 4, how long can you be chased for debt? Well, under the Limitation Act of 1980, a creditor has 6 years to chase most unsecured unpaid debts or 12 years for some mortgage debts. This limitation period starts from the time of your last payment or when you last acknowledged the debt. If a CCJ has been registered against you before the limitation period has passed, then it can be enforced at any point, as there's no limitation period for a CCJ. Also, the Limitation Act doesn't apply to debts owed to the government, such as income tax, benefits overpayments, and council tax, which means that these types of debts can be collected even after 6 years have passed. Okay, last question, and then I have a bonus tip on how you can potentially write off some of your debt. Question number 5 is, how do I pay less and come to an agreement with the debt collectors? Well, there's a number of ways that you might be able to reduce the amount you pay. If you're struggling to make the repayment amounts, then there's several options that you can explore. If Cabot Financial are adding interest and charges to your debt, then you can ask them to freeze those interest and charges to help you get back on track. Debt collectors are more likely to stop or reduce interest and charges if you prove that you're in financial difficulties. I'd suggest that you put a budget together showing your income and essential living costs so you can clearly demonstrate your financial difficulties. You can also use that budget to negotiate reduced payments. Again, you'll need to show why you can't afford those high repayments. So write down your income and essential living costs so you can demonstrate what you can afford. Some debt collectors will only agree to reduce payments for a set period of time, and at the end of that period, they'll want to review and update your situation. Others agree to a much longer repayment period. This will totally depend on the nature of your debt and your individual circumstances. If you have the cash, you could make a full and final settlement offer. This is where you ask if they'll accept a lump sum payment, and as a result, some debt collectors will write off the remainder of the debt. And as promised, here's my bonus tip on how you might be able to write off some of your debt. And it's not just with Cabot Financial, by the way. If you have debts with other people, there's lots of ways you can significantly reduce your repayments or even totally write off some of your debt. During my career in the credit card industry, I gained lots of insider knowledge, and as a result, I discovered there's 7 relatively unheard of debt solutions that are available in the UK. The industry doesn't really advertise these because they're either free or low cost, so there's no money to be made out of them. Now, unfortunately, these solutions are not available to everybody. You do need to be in specific circumstances, but there's probably at least one of these 7 debt solutions that you do qualify for. You could either be paying less than you do already, or maybe even write off some of your debt. To make it simple for you, I've created a free eligibility checker, which I've linked to in the description below. It's 5 simple questions and takes less than 30 seconds to find out if you can reduce your payments and write off some of your debt. So click the link in the description below and go do that now.